I have globally muted every alert noise on this computer, and yet Discord's alerts not only do not go to the rest of the audio for Discord, which goes through my voice meter, which sends the audio to my headphones. Discord's alerts still play while muted and play through my computer speakers, which, though not unplugged, are deselected in my audio control panel and in voice meter. It's really special.
I'm stunned.
I can't believe it's not butter. I can't believe it's the end of the year. I can't believe it's the beginning of the year. What is it? It's the beginning of the year. It's the end of the year. Hello. Welcome to episode 386 of We Were Gamers, a podcast about the Intel i386 processor discontinued in 2007. That's why We Were Gamers. We're professionals, and we're gonna talk about the benefits of 32-bit microprocessing and transistor numbers and how this really changed the industry. Although the socket was very small compared to modern standards.
The i386 is a heater, man. A classic. Always has been.
I think it's one of the original x86 chips, I think.
You would be right, I think. I don't think there was the 286, but it was very early, yeah. We are still stuck with the remnants of what that thing did to software to this day.
I don't know why my brain was like, I think 386 is like an important processor. I don't know why I remembered it, but I did.
I think it is. It was one of the very most popular ones for sure.
Yeah.
And then, the 486 and its variants before you eventually get to the Pentium years later.
Yeah. I don't know. This is one of those We Were Gamers moments for sure. Welcome back.
Where we date ourselves.
Yeah, a little bit. Just getting to the age where things pop into your head now, like, oh yeah, I remember that. Welcome back. We had a nice little break. There was a podcast about Star Trek. There was a podcast about Diablo. Michael and I played Dungeon Encounters in there somewhere. It's been a nice little winter nap, so to speak, as we pick back up the new year. Welcome to January. But it's kind of time to look back in multiple veins. First, a 37-year record, you guys.
Oh, I did see this.
Yeah.
This is cool.
Shout outs.
We gotta mention it up front, right? Like, as long as we're looking backwards. What is he, 13? 13-year-old?
13.
Managed to kill screen the original NES Tetris? NES Tetris, not Game Boy Tetris, to be clear.
Yeah, it's something that the NES version specifically had never been done outside of an emulator, and people weren't sure that it was humanly possible.
It is, even though your hands will apparently go numb playing Tetris for 38 minutes straight.
I mean, that part makes obvious and perfect sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
They might not on a modern controller set up with a little bit more ergonomic controlling and the ability to like move buttons to different places for your hand. You might be able to not get tendonitis,
I don't know,
maybe.
dude. Yeah, maybe. With the amount of like speed and precision required to do that, like if you guys seen any of the videos of it, it's wild. He's like playing Tetris faster than I can think about Tetris.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all unconscious at that point. Like his brain recognizes the pieces and his hands move without any like conscious thought.
There's
there's no time for strategy.
Well, there's also the ability to unfocus your eyes and see multiple things at once.
Yes.
No, he's in the flow state for sure, yeah.
Well, I made a list, you guys, and this will come up later, actually. But we're back, and we have an obligation to continue a series that started in 2018 with episode 136 of Things of the Year. Are you ready? It's time to look back again. 2018, I picked the Switch. JJ, I have a big star absent here. And Michael picked Into the Breach. So we did a really great job sending that thing off with in perfect We Were Gamers style, not having the whole crew.
Go us.
Sounds like us.
2019 Disney Plus. It was mine. JJ Bloodstained, stolen from Michael. Michael was Link Between Worlds. 20. Oh, we did a Things of the Decade special in there somewhere. 188. I picked game monetization. JJ, you picked Souls and Meat Boy difficulty, basically. And Michael picked mobile games and the Marvel MCU. 2020, I picked the Halo MCC instead of Game Pass. JJ picked his RPG list. There was a lot of them. And Michael, the 2020 story. 2021.
That's a great story.
Yeah.
So good.
See, this
So
is
where's
why we
my
look
sequel?
back. This is the look back.
Where's
2021.
my sequel, John?
The Right Tools was mine, aka the Elite Controller. JJ Prestige TV on streaming, and Michael Horizon Zero Dawn. Michael's the only one really holding a steady line of actual games here.
In
Michael-
true We Were Gamers fashion, none of us are staying true to anything.
Andy, 2022. It's okay to let things go, because I had a really good year 2022 of finally beginning to understand myself a little bit and things to let go of, as well as games. You don't have to play them all the way through if you don't like them. The real remakes finally, and Michael, the new normal, hybrid work, sports, indoors. Michael, how do you think that one aged?
I mean, it's yeah. Some of it's coming back around, unfortunately.
I think most of them aged pretty well, I gotta say.
Yeah.
Mobile games have died a little bit harder than we thought they might have. Monetization is worse than I predicted.
Yeah.
Oof.
Yeah. Yeah, that's where we're at. So, and keeping this tradition, Michael last year picked a number between 1 and 3. JJ, pick a number between 1 and 3.
Okay. I'll pick the number 2.
2. It was 2. You get to go first, JJ.
This works out because I think it's possible I will have the most directed and like bite-sized thing this year.
We're starting it off light. I like it.
Yeah, because I'm going to pick a moment. I had one moment in a game this year that was really just encapsulated not only the feeling of this game, but also why I felt that this game was so special, and was just like one of my all-time great moments in a video game experience.
Really?
Ooh, okay.
So I have to set the stage a little bit, though, and it's going to require a little bit of the spoilering. Sorry, but we got to talk about what happened in order to properly set the stage here. So as I want to talk about the game Baldur's Gate 3, which no one should be surprised that I enjoyed quite a lot.
All right. Well, I'll be back in a half hour since this is spoilers.
It really is. Yes, it is spoilers, but it really is, something that I don't think should ruin, or also based on what I know about how this game goes, you may never experience this.
Oh no.
Different ways things can go, that you may never run into this series of events that I'm going to describe.
Okay.
So in the course of adventuring, sometimes you sign a contract with the devil, and we're not talking like a figurative devil.
Literally.
Yes,
Are we like
this is an actual
adventuring in
devil.
anime?
No, this is an actual devil from the hells, which are a physical place.
Okay.
And devils have, like in, fairy tale, they have you sign contracts for, your soul or other various things. And they will give you things in exchange for that, right? And you think you get exactly what you want, and then it turns out that actually
Monkey
the devil,
paw.
Exactly, right? That's how that stuff always works. And so I went into this contract thinking immediately, like, I'm just going to double cross this guy. I'm just not going to uphold my end, right? Like, I'm just going to he's going to give me what I want. I'm not going to do anything that he wants. And then I'm going to screw him over later. And it turns out that you can't always just do that to a literal devil.
You mean it's not Diablo 4, huh?
No, it's a little more, there are more rules, I guess.
Or, more reality. You're not just the hero that's going to win or the hero that's going to lose, right? Diablo has that moment with Mephisto towards the end of Diablo 4. And it's like, look, clearly we all know what's going to happen here because we're the hero and we're going to double cross the bad guy.
Yeah. Who knows how that plays out in the end, right? But similarly to that was my thinking going into this. My party was not super happy with me for signing a contract with an actual real devil. And you can imagine for various good reasons, including some of people who had done this in the past and it didn't turn out well for. But obviously, I know best, right?
Yeah.
So later, when the chance presents itself to break into the home of this devil, I'm like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to steal that contract back and tear it up. And then no obligations, right?
I love that the game allows this option and that if you just don't do any of this, it's something you'll never experience.
Absolutely. You could just go through the game and then, I suppose do the thing that the devil wanted. And then you would be able to do something else at the end. I have no idea what would happen. We break into the devil's house, named the House of Hope. And going around, stealing all the various not nailed down items as you do in an RPG.
Sure. Yeah. Well, you got to loot the house.
Gauntlets here, amulet here, whatever you got, steal it all. And I find a prisoner named Hope locked up in the basement.
Oh, the House of Hope.
Of Hope house. Yeah.
In a surprising move, the devil stole the house from Hope.
Oh, maybe it was a contract.
It could be, right? Who knows? So I decide, all right, I'm going to go find my contract, steal it, come back, break this person out, and then escape, right? And I have a pretty good sense that I'm going to take this contract and stuff is going to go bad immediately, right? Because that's the video game thing.
It's never that easy.
Right. And so it does, right? I find the contract. It's in a, guarded location. I break in, I steal it. Immediately, everything goes hostile. Combat starts. A person pops in. It's like, you really screwed up. I let you choose. This is your fault. You'll see how this happens. Poof, right? Okay. And so now I'm basically in a mad dash from where that is to where Hope's prison cell is. I get in there. You have to use magical MacGuffins to break her out of her chains because they're magic. Fight a bunch of enemies there. Fight my way back out of that prison cell and towards where the exit is. We've now covered many turns of my players running at full speed every turn. All giant flaming boulders chasing me, all kinds of traps, tons of monsters and enemies, right? I get to the exit. I'm like, all right, finally we are here. And I'm going to ask you guys to click play on this song right now as you open the door.
Okay.
Oh, you just get it straight up singing.
Okay.
It doesn't sound like it's going to go well.
This is ominous.
Wait, so...
This is Hope, the character, singing.
Oh, no.
Oh, she betrayed us?
No.
Oh.
She's very pessimistic throughout this whole thing. She's been tortured for millennia.
So we're all gonna die. We're all gonna die.
And who appears right in front of our party now? But the person who's going to come in here in a moment.
Hell, hell, hell has its laws. Hell, hell, effect in the cause. Curtain falls, but hold your applause.
Is this Mark Hamill?
Squirm, for now down here come the claws.
No, this is the voice actor for this character.
Who's the character? What's the character's name?
The character's name is Raphael. The actor is a person who has never sung before. This is the first. He's never even performed in a musical.
Okay.
Really?
Souls go to their dooms in flame forevermore.
Fools, fools, how hard you have fought. Brave, brave, but it's all been for naught. True souls that couldn't be bought. Doomed, detected, and caught. No more grace, it's over. This house of hope.
So are you fighting during all this? I'm gonna fade this out here, I guess.
Yeah. So
That's good stuff.
Are you fighting during all that?
so
Or are
yes,
is it a
you get
cutscene?
into a discussion. A conversation happens as you open that door. The devil himself, Raphael, appears.
He
You have
sounds a
discussion with
lot
him.
like Mark Hamill, by the way.
It's not. I've seen an interview with the actor,
I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying that's what he sounds like.
and he has a. This actor is half of the reason this song is so good. The
Okay.
character has this Disney villain ass persona, right? Like you can hear it in the song.
He
He's like,
sounds like Gaston a little bit.
totally. He's
Yeah.
vamping. He is like theatrical, emotional, and just like, laying it all out there, letting you know how you've played into his little hand, and now the claws are coming down to squish you like the bug you are, right?
Mm-hmm.
He is so good. And you finish that conversation, and it always leads to a fight. There's no way out. Like you literally did everything to double cross impossible. He is not happy with you.
Okay.
And then the fight starts, right? You go into the combat interface, and this song is playing in the background. Like it's just one of the songs that plays while you're fighting the fight. He's singing in the battle if you zoom in.
Oh,
Oh,
that's
that's
funny.
great.
If you silence him, his track drops out.
Oh,
Huh.
It is so cool and so well done. The whole fight is like super hard. Obviously, you're fighting the devil in his own literal home. And, there's a whole bunch of cool mechanics specifically unique to it. And he summons a bunch of helpers, as you might expect a devil to do. Devils don't like to do their own dirty work, right?
Mm.
I've
heard that.
Yeah. It is so cool. And is the whole experience of, running through the house, escaping, freeing Hope, getting out to the end, and, going through that combat encounter, and then, eventually winning and escaping was by far the coolest thing I've experienced in games in a super long time. And I loved it so much. I can't stop listening to this song. I really love just this whole process. And that's why it's my thing of the year this year.
It's nice to not be able to set something down and it not come from like a need to finish it, or it just comes from like a genuine reliving of a moment. Like do you remember listening to like soundtracks a lot? I don't know that we do that much anymore, although the recent Spider-Man soundtracks are pretty good. But like there used to be the like Lord of the Rings score in my car all the time, right?
Yeah.
Just because some of the moments in there were so iconic and haven't really been recreated recently
like
in
some-
film.
The composer for Baldur's Gate 3 did an unbelievable job. I've listened to a bunch of the other music from it, and it's like really good. Obviously, it also all plays during the game as well. But I like this one, like the fact that they were like, okay, we're going to have the devil sing you a song. Like, what an inspired idea.
Well,
Right?
but just getting to that point. So that's what I was working to, is like getting to a point where that thing is so important and so memorable is a work before the work, right? Like, yeah, it's cool.
yeah.
It gave you the little touch of silencing the track, and that's really smart and fun. But like the work before the work.
Yeah. And, obviously it's not as impactful for you guys as it was for me because you didn't have the 40, 80 hours before the first couple of acts when I was dealing with this guy who'd been popping up along the whole adventure, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, obviously you can never trust the devil. That guy is like literally the name, right? But they do have rules they have to follow. That's the whole contract thing, right?
Right.
Yes.
And so you want to believe they're going to deal fairly with you, but obviously that's why they're devils, is that they're not going to. And
I just
so
don't know
set
why
up
Hope
this, like,
sounds
such a
so
cool experience.
sad.
I mean, he's been torturing her for millennium, so I think you probably would be pretty upset about it.
Kind of giving up.
Yeah, I do understand now. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's such a cool thing, and if you bring Hope through it alive, she has stuff to say. If she dies and you win, there's different things that get said. Because I had to fight this fight so many times because I kept dying or Hope kept dying, and I wasn't getting the outcome that I was, or my characters were dying, or other various things. So
is
super
Baldur's
cool.
Gate a permadeath game? Can you set it up that way or no?
You can. I did not. But I was in such a state that I wasn't going to be able to easily get my characters back if they died.
Mm-hmm.
So I sort of needed to come through with, if not everyone alive, almost everyone alive, and Hope alive, or if Hope could like revive one or two people, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And so if I couldn't, align all those conditions, I would be like, all right, I have to do this again. So
did you know what ending you wanted out of it? Is that why you keep saying like, oh, I didn't get the ending, or were you just hoping for an outcome based on what your characters wanted?
I get to the end and like only my main character is alive, and it's like, well, I'm not like, I don't want to have a near total party wipe and then it be a huge hassle to get everyone's stuff back, right?
Sure.
And the game provides you ways to like resurrect your characters for money or whatever if you don't have resurrection capabilities or whatever. But I had spent all my money attempting to get here, so I didn't really have a lot of like spare resources available to resurrect my people. So
nice.
It was more of a like, it's going to be a hassle for me to get them back, so I didn't want to have that hassle if I could avoid it.
Is the fight randomized, or was it one of those ones that
no, it was pretty
just kind of do the same thing every time?
Yeah, there's a couple random elements in terms of like how things go off while you're talking with Raphael. You could certainly talk with him, and there's like a persuasion check you can make to convince one admittedly big and annoying character to switch sides. I ended up never being able to pass that persuasion check. So I think you had to roll a 30 on a 20-sided dice. So not an impossible thing to do in D&D. You stack the bonuses right or whatever. But I was never able to pull it off. Or if you just roll a 20, right? In D&D, 20 is a automatic success.
Pass.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I never was able to pull that off in my time fighting. But and it also allows you to save mid-combat and stuff if you want to do that, right?
Oh man.
And
do you quick save, or does it open up a menu for you?
You can do both, right? I'm playing on the PC, so I have options. I used the quick save, but you could also open it up and just create hard saves wherever you want.
We had a fun time discussion over here that maybe you guys should weigh in on. My spouse and I were playing Kingdom Hearts again. We finally got back to it after a needed break through the game and through the amount of time we had. And we were going into a fight that we had failed hard against Ursula. And if people have played Kingdom Hearts 1, they know what I mean. And there's two phases to the fight, and you can swim out of this tunnel and save in the middle of it if you wanted to, instead of chasing her immediately. And so we go to save, and instead of overwriting my previous save, I saved in the third slot down, which prompted the question, why are you saving? Why aren't you just overwriting the previous save?
I understand your reasoning, right? If you discover that like, oh, this save has now trapped us in some really horrible way, right?
I think it's a vestige of our original gaming experiences, right? Like you could definitely with like Final Fantasies in the past, be like, 20 hours ago I didn't pick up that item, or 20 hours ago that person died, or what, like, and I need them back, or I need that back, or now I don't, I went into this fight and I won it, but I saved after, and now I don't have enough items to get through the next fight or enough MP or whatever,
Totally.
The vestiges of our gaming careers were weighing on me. When I looked at the obvious question that she was asking, I was like, would anything change if I wasn't overwriting the file? Probably not, but like muscle memory for me made me save it in a different slot. And I don't know if I was in the right or wrong, just to be like, no, that's the way you do it in an RPG. And I just moved on.
Yeah, I still do that with the Trails games. I create separate saves for the beginning and end of each chapter.
See?
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, because they're story beats, right? And it's like, well, if I miss something big, I don't mind replaying through a chapter, right? Going back a chapter and hitting something that I missed. But I don't want to start over. Like, who has the time for that?
I mean, playing Baldur's Gate, I probably made hundreds of saves. Hundreds.
Right.
Because you just hit new save every time, and they're just like, hundreds and hundreds of saves. But in the Trails games, I'm a little closer to what Michael is doing. I'm not quite as meticulous as every chapter, but definitely I have a few save slots, and I kind of just like, whenever I think I did something important, I just move to the next slot down, right?
I'm pretty sure my most saved game is like Battletech or something like that, where I was saving like every other turn at a certain point in the game.
Yeah. Or The Witcher. I think The Witcher 3, I had 1 billion save files in too.
Yeah. Skyrim, you could, ended up with there's a lot of moments in RPGs where you're like, I'm not sure if I am saving here permanently, right? Like maybe I want to go back. Maybe there's a problem. I know for a fact that I needed times in dungeons in Zelda, like especially like Ocarina, where it was like, I didn't grab this item before that door locked.
This does bring up a really interesting discussion, though. One thing I really like about what Baldur's Gate 3 has done here is they've adapted something that is popular in tabletop RPGs these days, which they call failing forward. Are you guys aware of what this is?
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
So it's... Oh, go ahead, Michael.
I was going to say, you're going to have to explain.
Okay, so it's this idea that in a tabletop RPG, you kind of want even the failure states to move things forward, right? In some way, right? Whether that's
instead of game over.
Right. D&D is kind of bad example of this because it's really like kind of binary yes, no on a lot of stuff. But Larian in Baldur's Gate 3 and a lot of good DMs, if you play with them, will help it. So it's like, I want to lockpick this door. I fail. But actually what you do is, you spring a trap that alerts the guards, and now you're in a fight, and you're going to, that will progress whatever, thing you're doing, right? Or, well, yes, you weren't able to get through the door, but you do notice, a panel on the side that you can open, and that leads to a secret passage that takes you somewhere else or something like that, right?
Sure.
These sort of other ways and other options to help get you to try different things and see other ways to solve all these problems is one of the cool things that exists in this game, in that there's never just one way to do this. And like I told Andrew, early on, like it's very possible you never get to this place in the game because you don't have to fight Raphael. You don't have to try and double cross him. You could just not do this. You could just never enter the contract to begin with. You don't have to sign that contract. I picked the option to sign it. You could just not do it, right? And then would you ever end up here? I don't know, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, there's so many different varied paths through the way this game goes that it's entirely possible and kind of wild that you could just never see large parts of it if you just happen to not, wander over that way or pick those certain options.
That's very cool. Sure. Michael, would you like for me to go next?
Yeah, you can go next. I can wrap it up.
You want to end the year? All right.
Sure. Mine's kind of meta, so.
Oh no. Mine I promise in 2024 to maybe pick a thing of the year that's less me. But maybe not. If you kind of heard my previous ones, Each thing has a reason, but it's usually something bigger than the thing. I don't know about you, Wall, but Michael, maybe you more than JJ will relate to this. You start out at the beginning of having a kid with baby brain, and you just can't remember anything. But also, the years of alcohol and lack of sleep and overwork and stress and other things like that, I noticed in the last couple of years, my memory is not maybe perfectly sharp like it used to be. I used to be able to remember lots of things all the time. Shows, I could remember lines from most of them. I could remember plots of movies I saw 5 years ago. All sorts of stuff. My memory was tack sharp. It's not bad now, but it's not great. I sent you guys something in the mail. I assume you both got it.
Yes, I did receive a package.
I think it's kind of a funny joke, but it's also something that I think might help all of us. I sent them, for the people that don't have one in front of them, a little black book called The Gaming Backlog. And the first 20 or so pages are just pages of games I'm intending to play. With columns on where they are and if you played them or not. I think I laughed at it initially when I saw it last year in 2022 end of the year. I think I saw them, and I didn't buy them right away, and I thought it was kind of funny, but it gave me an idea of something that I haven't started using mine by the way yet, but I will. That I was going to do this year, that I did do. I stuck with it all year. I started in January, and I did this all year. It's gaming related, I promise. We'll get there. It's really cool to have lots of libraries. We have libraries of games, right? I have a EA store account, and I have a library of games there. I have a GOG library, good old games. I have a Steam library of games. Hundreds of games probably sitting there between those. Not probably, definitely sitting there between those accounts. I have, PlayStations. I have retro games. I know this is true for all of you as well. Everyone listening, as well as the two gentlemen here.
Yeah.
Yep.
But we also have libraries we're not thinking about. You guys subscribe to Netflix? That's a library. You subscribe to HBO, maybe? That's a library. Paramount's now a library, right? Like you have a media deluge in your life. And remembering these things, the idea of priorities came into my mind about where I was spending my time and what I was watching and playing and doing. And while there's less time for us than there used to be, right? Like we were gamers, right? We're not. I can't sit on a game all day, go to class, and then come back and sit on the game the rest of the day, and then do the homework in the last 20 minutes the next morning when I wake up.
Too real.
Shout out to World of Warcraft. There's more time than you think, though, right? The kid does eventually go to bed, and that realization there's more time than you think, and even though there's less time, prompted me to, seeing this gaming backlog, make a list. 2023 film, TV, games, and books. My entire media entertainment diet for the last year. I kept track of it. Everything I watched, read, played.
It's like already that's very impressive. Like doing that part is impressive.
It was taxing at first to remember to do it for the first 2 months. January and February really got to me. But then towards the end of the year, I would forget to put stuff in. And the next morning or something like that, I would wake up and be like, oh, I forgot to add my list. So it really became a part of consuming media for me. And I'm glad that I did it because it really showed me where the weak spaces were in my diet, so to speak. And I have more to say about making a list and all that, but I read 35 books. I watched 94 movies. I watched 63 seasons of television. and I played 9 video games.
Impressive when you lay it out like that.
It is impressive,
that's
but
a lot.
I thought there was a little bit of a misnomer there when I said 9 video games, because
Are you only
my
counting
9
games you finished?
No, I wasn't only counting games I finished, right? Like I put Kingdom Hearts 1.5 HD Remix in here. I put Dungeon Encounters in here. Diablo 4 is in here. Mario Party, Mario Kart, Pokemon Arceus, Tetris 99, Grindstone. Lots of games. I probably missed 1 or 2. I probably missed a couple movies. I probably missed a TV show, right? Like there's a chance that I didn't perfectly make this list, but at the same time, it didn't feel complete until I thought about it 2 ways. The number is really helpful, but also hours are helpful, right? So what is, how many hours to read a book? I can't tell you. Each book's like, some of these were books I read with the kids even. And so those are, like an hour or 2. They're not even that long. But, if you add up 63 seasons of TV and you assume 8 hours a season or so, that's like 500 hours of TV. If you assume 2 hours for each movie, that's like 180 something hours of movies. But if you go to the games, I looked at it and I was like, okay, maybe this is like 80-ish hours of games plus Octopath's 800 hours.
Mm-hmm.
So it really not just shows you like, oh, I could have watched 10 less movies last year, probably, especially looking back through it. And you're like, did I really need to watch Red Notice? I don't even know what. I don't
remember. I saw that movie. It was fine. You didn't.
Yeah.
It was skippable.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Or like I rewatched Heat last year and I was like, that was okay, but I probably didn't need to rewatch it.
I don't know. Heat's pretty good.
Yeah, it is pretty good. But, anyway, I mean, you go through and you see a bunch of these things and you think, oh, what was my favorite movie last year? Okay, well, it's probably Oppenheimer. But I have this list. I can go through and remember that I watched Licorice Pizza that everybody loved in 2022, and I thought it was terrible because I wrote down next to it, yuck, I hate this pizza.
Okay.
Yeah. I watched Edge of Tomorrow for the 3rd time last year, and I said I miss Bill Paxton. Things like that are fun to look back on at the end of the year, and like to look at Octopath and say, okay, this year I want to see that number down. Right? Like they released a lot of content last year, and it probably won't be a problem to play this game less time and play more games in that time. But at the same time, rewatching Smokin' Aces or watching Hot Tub Time Machine 2 could have probably been nixed for a little bit more video game time or another book.
I was going to say, I worry what my version of that list would look like. I suspect it would be a lot less books, more games, but then also less movies.
Yeah.
It's really, for me, the shocker was that I went back and I was like, oh my gosh, 2023 was the year I watched the entirety of Seinfeld. I didn't even remember.
You called them like 8 hours a season. Those were 26 episode seasons, right? So those were probably closer
13
to
hours.
13
Yeah,
hours.
but then you average it out with like Tales of the Jedi's on here, and that was like 4 hours of TV probably,
Yeah, it's true.
I tried to find a number that made some sense as an average. I think what was most telling, what was kind of cool, is like, okay, I like doing all these things. I can refocus my diet without feeling like I'm going to miss out. If I watched 94 movies last year, I could probably, or 63 seasons of TV, I could probably fit in more games and books if that's what I want, or those sorts of things. I am a person that uses a daily planner sometimes, not like a fancy one, but like a lined sheet of paper to keep track of the things I want to do. And though I find that kind of thing useful, I think a system more like this, and like that gaming backlog book, where you can write down stuff that is more of a priority for you than just sort of thinking about it after the fact, it might be more valuable than we think. And I don't think anybody needs a fancy Trello board or a pin board or something like that, but just keeping track of things that for you are important. This was important for me, right? Like, I like to watch movies. How many of them am I actually watching in a year? Is it only 20? Or do I need to find ways to tell people I need, some time to go to the movie theater, or am I fine? Well, it turns out I'm fine.
And how many of those movies were you doing other things during, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't count like in here. When I'm working sometimes on stuff when I don't need to concentrate on noise, I put on Stargate or something else that I've seen before. I didn't put that type of stuff in the list.
Oh, okay, gotcha. You
all right.
already selected that stuff out. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So like if I were to put on, I can't even. Yeah. I mean, like I put on TV basically sometimes that I've seen before. TNG's a good one, right? That gets thrown on in the background a lot for me when it's something that I'm really not focusing on. Because I just know it. I know it in the back of my head. It's like listening to music. So
Yeah.
I didn't count that stuff. But in the gaming backlog book, I think that I bought, and I thought you guys might enjoy at least looking at it. You don't have to use.
I opened it up and got a good chuckle out of it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to do it right now. I'll open my Steam account, right? And by the time it opens, I'm going to fall asleep here. By the time you hit the library button, just the A's take up more of the screen than I can get through. How do I remember what I wanted to do so prioritize your stuff and maybe, just maybe, keep track of the ideas you have and the things that you do. I really don't want to oversell, but my thing of the year is reflection in a way. People do this with lots of different things, not just keeping track of media, but like people do this for dieting, right? They do it for...
I know some people that keep track of their sleep, like
keep track of their sleep,
how much sleep they're getting or whatever. Yeah.
It's almost a different version of like journaling in a way. I can look back on this list now for the next couple of years and remember if I've already seen something, or if someone says, did I see it? A lot of these have notes next to them. And I can be like, well, my memory's not as good as it used to be, but I did watch that Tetris movie and I don't think you should.
Noted. Sure. I did want to mention about Steam specifically there. Steam has the ability for you to sort that library and create categories.
Mm-hmm.
And
Maybe
you
that's
can
the
float
answer.
those categories up above just the organized list. So you can like float a category up to the top that's like games I want to play, and anything you want to play, stick it in there. This doesn't help you if you're going to have like 500 games in there, but you'd be like, next on deck or whatever, and just put it up there. And so that you go, oh, I finished this last one. I'm ready for the next thing. What's the next one? Or something like that.
Last batter up and next on deck.
I'm glad, Andy, that you went first, because your thing and my thing are basically the biceps meme, and the clasped hands in the middle is the We Were Gamers aesthetic.
Okay. I don't know how that works.
So my thing is related. The thing I want to talk about is related to the obvious one thing for me. And the one thing for me from this past year is clearly going to be becoming a dad, right? I was looking back on how that impacted my year, and how I have like consumed media, be that TV or books or video games. And looking back for me, I realized the first one was kind of in part through a little stubbornness on my part, but I only read one book of my own list last year, and I only saw one movie in a theater. I only spent time playing 2 games all year long, when I found time to play them. And this is, it's not just being a dad that causes this. It's any major shift in your life, right? Your priorities change a little bit, and you have to relearn how things fit into your new reality compared to the things that you had time for before the change. And so I think for me, my one thing is picking one thing, right? And what I mean by that is, if you have limited time to choose a movie to watch or to choose a game to play, try approaching it as if this is the one that you get this year, right? Rather than just sort of like throwing darts at a wall and seeing what hits. If you don't have a ton of time to spend on something, maybe be a little more selective about what it is you pick, right? And treat it as if, you know, if I only get to read one book this year, what book do I really want to read, right? Like, what book have I been excited about or have I heard good things about? And I would be okay if this was the book that I read this year.
That is
And I
totally the
think
biceps meme.
Yeah, it is. And I think it makes you a little more thoughtful in your choices to approach it that way. And I think that having, you know, limited time and limited resources, you're going to get more enjoyment from the things that you pick approaching it that way.
I think there's a follow-up to you that maybe JJ actually can weigh on, because he just experienced going back and doing this thing. There's a follow-up to the state that you are in right now. And the state that you're in right now is difficult on your enjoyment of your priorities. And sometimes things fall off because that's how life is. You know, I used to go motorcycle riding. I used to go snowboarding. I used to see people on the weekends all the time. I used to till 2 a.m. playing video games. You know, like you can come up with an immense list of things, and a lot of them do fall off, right? They start to fall off, and prioritizing doesn't always come from a state of what you love most. And that's a really good piece of advice, I think, to pick one. If you are picking one thing, make sure that it's something you're going to cherish, because you know there will be things that you just don't have control of that you can't keep up with anymore. And I would advise you, people in Michael's position, keep track of the things that you miss when the feeling hits you that you miss them. Don't give in to the immediate nostalgia thing that has been 2019 through 2022 of, like, I don't know if you follow lots of people on the internet like I do, but Pokemon cards, you guys. Tell me that's not nostalgia.
My eyes have rolled back into my head and have done 3 loops as you brought that up.
that poor museum.
I see those cards everywhere on the internet. The nostalgia fueled economy of stuff like that, I fell into it, and that was the 2022 thing that we talked about earlier, thing of the year. But there will be things that come back around to you that you'll be like, I really miss this. Here's an example. Kids around here have started to get old enough that we can go to and enjoy the snow with them. Going to the snow with an infant is difficult because of the needing to keep them warm so they don't freeze. And they don't enjoy it very much, being cold or, you know, snow.
If you want to train those kids to become championship skiers and snowboarders, 4 is the correct age. Begin teaching them to fall and, like, you know, carve those slopes.
It's funny you should mention
earlier.
Yeah, well, it's funny you should mention that, JJ. My 2024 film, TV, book, game list. There's one TV show on it so far. Shaun White, The Last Ride, the 4-episode documentary from HBO. And it actually ties in exactly to the story I was about to tell you, which is, have enjoyed going to the snow with my kids. I've enjoyed snowboarding in the last 2 years, which I've actually gotten to do again, but only once a year. I watched that documentary the other night, and I realized, not for the sake of nostalgia, but for the sake of how much joy I used to feel doing something, that I missed snowboarding. I missed it more than I thought I did, even though the last 2 years we've done it. The taste of doing it in the last 2 years with the kids, and the idea that Shaun White learned because his parents just started taking him, right? Something that I missed doing that I haven't been able to do because of the facts of life. Not because, oh, it's my kid's fault, but because that is reality and you just have to live with it. Keeping track of the things that you really miss, the opportunities to do them more will come back around to you if you prioritize them. Maybe you can't do them this year, and maybe you do need to say, okay, I'm only going to get 1 or 2 movies in the theater. But when those kids are older, it was important to you to go to the movies and have your movie pass and do that. And they will eventually be old enough to participate. And you can make that one of those things that you keep track of and say, I didn't do that enough in my media list for the year, or in my, maybe you're an outdoorsy person. You listen to this podcast while you're snowboarding or hiking or skiing, or
watch out for that tree.
And put that on your things that you did or didn't do that you really want to get back to. And JJ, I know you just did this. You just went skiing as well, right? Like,
yeah.
Now that
it was super fun to go back.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and your spouse is participating with you now, right? Like,
yeah, to a small degree, but we had a great time, and we didn't do a ton of it, right? We went back, we did one thing,
moderation,
one day on the slopes, yeah, and we had a good time. No one got hurt or injured, which was a concern, and then we did other stuff, because it turns out, like, if you go to the mountains, like, skiing isn't the only fun winter related activity you can get up to, right? You guys, curling is awesome. You guys should do curling. It's sweet.
I
find a curling club. I know there's one in Irvine, so it's actually easy for you personally.
I was literally just about to say, I don't think there's enough ice around here.
Wrong. They rent out hockey rinks. We went to one in a hockey rink in Park City. That's where we were. And we did the Park City Curling Club, learned to curl thing. It was like $75 a person, which mostly is for them to pay to rent the hockey rink and like keep it cold for a few hours, right? But it was a blast, you guys. It was so fun. It's just like you're walking around on the ice just in normal tennis shoes and like, athletic clothes, because they got to stretch because you're going to run and slide and stuff.
What do they do to keep you on the ice in your tennis shoes?
You just walk, man. Like normal tennis shoes are good.
I mean, they have like ice shoes for that.
Yeah, but you want to be in normal tennis shoes so that you can...
Do not email me and say that ice shoes are called skates. I mean ice shoes.
Yeah, they tell you like, hey, bring shoes with like a flat rubber sole. That's what they tell you.
It's like Converse.
Yeah, those would actually be very good. Because you also at some point don't want to walk, right? You want to be sliding.
Instead of slide move, right? To
throw it,
the stone, throw the stone.
Yes, and there's a little piece of Teflon they can put down that you can step on called the slide, which facilitates that. But it is family friendly, although kids may need to be a little older. Those stones are big and heavy. I'll first tell you. You're never really lifting them, so it's not really a problem. But you need some force to slide them when you're first learning, and then once you get good, it turns out that it's actually completely all finesse, and you don't need force at all.
My grandparents used to have a shuffleboard court in their backyard, and it reminds me of this type of thing.
This game is shuffleboard on ice, 100%. That's what it is. It is so fun, though. Like, super cool. The rules are not that hard to learn. Like, once you kind of get the like motions needed in your body to like, contort yourself in this weird way to like stretch out and slide the thing down the thing, it was so fun. And like, we played a game our first time, and they put a team together of 2 and 2 and 2 and 2, and so 4 on 4, and we had a great time, and it was super cool. And I'm sure it is like super cheesy, and again, kids might need to be a little older before you can get around to it, because again, it does require some finesse and force, and the things are very heavy. But it is fun, like really, really fun. Like just like playing basketball, the game of basketball is fun. The game of curling is fun. It never would have been anything I would have ever investigated or thought about doing. But we were in a place where it's cold, and it's like, well, they got to have curling here. We should do that, right? There you go. And we did. It was rad.
Try new things. Make your one thing something interesting and new. It was a year of introspection, you guys. Yeah. We did not do the I-8 386 proud. The I-8 What am I trying to say? We didn't have an x86 year, it sounds like.
No, I mean, this seems like it was a lot of like really cool moments and good stuff for everybody. So, and I think, we didn't talk, we talked about games, not as much about like,
What was your
we don't do a
second
top
game,
10
Michael?
list or whatever.
What was my what?
You said you played 2 games last year. Octopath and what?
Oh no, I wasn't even counting that. I was thinking like console style.
Gotcha.
It was Super Mario Wonder was one of them, and Trails from Zero.
I guess maybe I should leave Octopath off the list, but it's just such a huge part.
No, I think you absolutely need to keep it on the list for
That's kind of the point of the list, right?
that.
Yeah. I wrote down the starting hours for this year, so we'll know exactly how many times I fell asleep. Well, I don't think I can call this episode failing forward because I really feel like all three of us are looking forward to an amazing 2024, even though I love the idea of that title. I also noticed the one year that I didn't name it Things of the Year, it was very hard to find on our website. So
maybe for help your future self out.
yeah,
You can subtitle it, Things of the Year 2024 dash.
not failing forward.
Not failing forward.
Yeah.
There you go.
Well, in this new year, your resolution is to email us, right, JJ?
Yeah, folks can send us their emails, and that's a great resolution. Also, 1920 by 1080. That's a great resolution. Send those to podcast@weweregamers.com. Podcast@weweregamers.com. That's the email address. We are listening to you. And like, we're on social media. Check us out on there. We're also on YouTube, youtube.com/@weweregamers to find this fine audio visual product.
I wouldn't mind if I had 4K, 7680 by 4320, but 1920 by 1080 is such an easier number to remember and say.
Yeah, I mean, like you could, do what's the one 2560 by 1440? That's a pretty good resolution also.
Well, I mean, that's my monitor resolution. I love it. But, black bands and all that.
That do be how it is.